Hey everybody, welcome back to Majestic Collectibles Irregular Podcast. It is, let's see, what is today? February 19th, 2025. Been a busy week, busy morning actually. It's a whopping, let me check here, 3 degrees above zero. So that's actually a huge improvement. If you've been in the upper Midwest the last few days, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Feels like minus 15. That's with the wind chill. This morning it was up about 5:30, letting the dog out. And I think it was a minus 7 with minus 27 wind chill, something like that. Getting ready for a show, March 22nd, Johnston, Iowa, Stony Creek Inn. It's a free show, just a small show, mainly comics oriented. Although I'll have some toys and model kits and some oddball stuff there too, besides comics. So if you're in the area, stop and see me. I think it's supposed to be 30 degrees, which almost 4 times warmer than what it is right now, right? So that'll be nice. And then 50s next week. So, of course. And I have to apologize. I got a checklist here. So Corey, I apologize because I said in the last video you gave me 2 1/3 pages and it was 3 1/3 pages. A couple of the pages stuck together. So when you get a couple of grain belt premiums in you, man, you do good work. I gotta say that. So that's what we're gonna talk about here in just a little bit. I canceled my Amazon Business Prime, which I never wanted in the first place. I got settled with it 3 years ago, I think, during COVID, and I kept trying to cancel it, and they said you had to just cancel your whole account and start over. And I'm like, you're kidding me, right? Well, now evidently you don't have to. So I just canceled it just before I fired up this video, and they say it'll just convert to a personal account, and that's fine. I don't mind keeping regular personal Amazon Prime, although, honestly, I don't need like 24-hour shipping on stuff, and most of the stuff I order doesn't show up next day anyway, so I don't know what I'm paying for it for, to be honest with you. Habit, I suppose. That's about it. So we'll see. I got to go back and look. I clicked the button and then came over here, so I'll go back and see if I even have a personal account or they just shut the whole thing down. I don't know. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I'm sure they'll take my money anyway. It just, they won't give me the next day or same day shipping guarantee. But even then, when it says it'll be here in 3 days, it's either here in 6 days or it's here by 8 p.m. tonight. Because we have like 2 or 3 ginormous warehouses, literally probably less than 5 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. So even if it's not offered, I think, and they just throw it on the truck to keep the trucks busy and the drivers busy. So it tends to show up anyway. If it's in the state, I'm guessing we have the largest warehouses for Amazon right here where I'm at. So I think that's the difference maker too. But anyway, got rid of that because I did not need. I got a 5% discount offer on like a $2,100 water cooler that came with like 1,500 free Dixie cups. Don't know what they think I do here by myself, working on my own, but obviously they think I'm very thirsty. But I did not need, and that's the kind of stuff I was getting, so I don't care. So next on the list here, that Corey said, I'm going to combine a couple again because they kind of go together on this. Talk about the outlier genres in comics that don't appeal to the superhero collector. This is a really good question. I wish I'd have thought of it. Which are very healthy. Talk about how to reach out to those customers who don't frequent the usual markets. And then the part I'm combining, so these were 2 separate topics, I'm going to put them together. The reemergence of cartoon tie-ins, both new and vintage, is there long-lasting interest or will it die out? And the reason I combine them is because the non-superhero genre, a lot of it is kind of dead. Like Westerns, I've talked about that. Crime, sports, well, even Golden Age sports. I just sold a Babe Ruth comic this morning, as a matter of fact, off eBay, and it was $100. But if that had been a superhero, just a run-of-the-mill superhero book, it'd have been $500, $600, $800. And even then, they're slow. Vintage movie comics, it depends on the movie, of course, but most of those are pretty slow. teen books and cartoons, and I'm talking like TV, Saturday morning cartoon stuff, things like that. Honestly, I've had good luck with them for decades, okay? And there's two reasons for this. One, because you can only sell what you buy, and a vast number of the collections I've had, especially for comics, a lot of Dell, a lot of Gold Key, so a lot of movie, TV, and cartoon stuff in there, and that's all I could get my hands on. Well, Westerns, too. So a lot of your Disney stuff, a lot of your Hanna-Barbera stuff, which is really good. We'll talk about that going forward. And that's just what I could get. And even last year, so back in 2024, there's a dealer that I've known for 25 years. I won't name him or shame him. It is not anybody from Collectibles because well, they know better, to be flat out honest with you. But this is typical for a long time now. I get a lot of, not a lot, but I get some crap from other dealers and vendors about, why are you selling these cartoon books? Why are you selling Archies? You know, everybody's got these wall books of Spider-Man and Iron Man and Batman, and I try and have those too, but they're harder to get. And so I put cartoon books on my wall in my booth, you know, when I set up at a show and things. They sell, man. I don't know what else to tell you. Do they bring the huge money that the superhero stuff does? Not usually. You know, that Scooby 1, the original Gold Key Scooby 1, that's second only to Hulk 181 in that Bronze Age if you're talking high grade. So it's a good book. But that's the exception and not the rule. But I sell a lot of them. And there's a couple reasons for this is, you know, I sell it to the fans, not to the flippers or collectors. That's who's looking for these. The ones that saw it themselves as a kid, or, you know, now with all these, I kind of like call them the rerun channels. You know, if you get the, put up the HD TV antenna, and maybe it's on, I think I've seen it maybe on Roku or Fire, some of those. I don't have those. I just put the HD antenna up, and you get channel, you know, 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, and a lot of them are the, you know, the replaying the old TV stuff. And, you know, Boomerang, I think, had an awful lot. If you remember the Boomerang channel, maybe it's still around. I don't know. I've never really had it on any of my services. But that's really brought a whole new set of collectors in, younger collectors. And they love them. My kids, they're in their 20s now. Man, they still love watching those 60s and 70s Scooby-Doo, Herculoids, Johnny Quest. I'm trying to think, you know, Bugs Bunny Roadrunner Hour, Captain Caveman. Just this off-the-wall stuff. Now, not everyone catches on. Honestly, I don't have a lot of Hong Kong Phooey fans like I used to, which is really too bad. I like that one. Wheelie and the Chopper Bunch. You know, production values, it was pretty hokey. You know, that kind of thing. But Wacky Races, Blue Falcon and Dynamite. Scooby, of course, is, I think, the king of most of this, even ahead of the Disney stuff. The Disney stuff is interesting. The only stuff I can really move is the duck related kind of books, Uncle Scrooge being chief among them. That's the best one. The Donald, even the Huey, Dewey, Louie. There's some other special ones. You know, Daisy had a book for a while, and Minnie had a book for a while, which is not a duck, obviously, but not so much in there. And the reason for that is, you know, basically your 90s Disney afternoon cartoons, Darkwing Duck, for instance, the one, what was it, with Baloo, the flying one. I'm sorry, it just escaped me there. When I had it in my brain and it flew away just as I was about to say it. So that stuff is really good. You know, Little Mermaid. I mean, any of those 90s Disneys for the most part are pretty easy to sell. Beauty and the Beast. You know, Aladdin. Ellen, you know, well, Enchanted, you know, Cinderella, even Alice in Wonderland. So the Alice stuff is collected by a different group of collectors, but it's all good. And I set up, so if I go to a comic show, like a comic book based show, like the one I've got Saturday in a couple of days here, I'm not going to move very many of those. Generally not. But if I go to a flea market or I set up at a mall show or something with a more diverse, I guess, group of shoppers or customers, not necessarily just comic focused customers, you know what? They sell really, really well. A lot of 80s books right now, not just the usual suspects, G.I. Joe, Masters of the Universe, the Strawberry Shortcake's always been a good seller. The Smurf stuff, always been a good seller. Holy cow, My Little Pony, Care Bears, these were all animation-based, cartoon-based titles. A lot of them didn't run super long, and a lot of them, some of them have come back through either Dynamite or IDW or whatever. Some haven't, so it's kind of a mixed bag. But generally, most of them really do sell. Mask is another one, so we're getting a little newer in the 90s. The Powerpuff Girls and Johnny Bravo, all that stuff. Ren and Stimpy, Beavis and Butthead, big seller there. Always try and pick those up if I can. All that stuff, all non-superhero stuff, that stuff does really, really well. I don't see it going away. It's a separate market from the superhero collectors. And I think that's good, because people get burned out on the superhero stuff. We're really seeing this in the current market. Of course, the market overheated ridiculously, beyond sense and sensibility. So if you're a Jane Austen fan, you kind of got that one. I slipped that one in, so just to point it out there. But the market is different. It's broader. It is, I think, limited dollars and cents wise. I don't see a lot of speculators, although there are a few. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, for instance, those early books. Even Last Ronin shot up, although they're coming down back to earth a little bit due to reprints and just I don't know how many variant covers those guys had on those Last Ronin books. It was pretty ridiculous. So that's a different group, and it does really, really, really well. I think it's got legs long term, because as long as the stuff is getting airtime and people are watching it and enjoying it, I think that's a good thing. And don't, I guess if you're a dealer, when I get them in a collection, you just can't pay a ton for them, because they are a little bit hit or miss. You just can't take them to a comic show and move a ton of them unless they're usually in a discount box or something. But I have great luck at the flea markets, great luck online with them. I have stashes and stashes of extra X-Men titles, extra Batman titles. Of course, there's 20 titles of each, but I got a lot of extra of those. I do not have a lot of extra in the cartoon or TV comic department, because they do sell. They're very steady. So I think that's gonna be good. I think that's gonna be good. Another one that I think is gonna be good long term is sci-fi horror. And not just the EC and the pre-code, which I like. It's about the only thing I really even bother to collect anymore, are those types of books. And it does vary, what people are kind of into, versus like an 80s Swamp Thing, and then you move into like say Neil Gaiman, Death or Sandman or whatever, and so that does evolve. And so that's a little different than the cartoons, where, like I'm a huge Dark Shadows fan, and they've tried to bring Dark Shadows back. It's been hit or miss. It's okay here and there. But you know what? Most of the fans left for that. are still probably the ones that saw it when they were kids. Okay, so that's kind of aging out. But I think a lot of stuff, your Star Trek, your Star Wars, I think that's going to be around. Battlestar Galactica is going to be around. Not a lot of it out there, not as popular as the other two, but still popular. People are still looking for it. And so I think our sci-fi horror stuff. Again, maybe more of a niche market. I sell more of those. Also, probably at flea markets and non-comic focused shows, to be honest with you, than the actual comic shows. So they kind of run together. Now, not the same folks, but that's where they're at. I don't see those guys in comic shows as much. Something that's been hot, it's cooling off, but it's still, I think, pretty good, and that's the romance genre. I don't see that having a lot of legs. A couple of reasons. One, the Matt Baker stuff, which is really good. I've been a Matt Baker fan for decades. Really launched. I'm talking books that went from $300 to $1,500, maybe more in some instances, and they're back down. They're not down to $300, but they're probably in that 6-7. So they've come off, 30-40% at least. But it kind of renewed interest in all the romance stuff. Particularly DC romance, which honestly was very consistent, had really good art. If you've read one or two romance comics, you've pretty much read every one. Okay, they just changed the names and the hair color. So you're not getting story-wise, necessarily a huge, it's whatever. And I think that's one of the reasons it won't have legs, to be honest, because the cartoon people actually seem to enjoy reading them. Wow, what a novel idea, right? The romance, I don't see that as much. It's been a lot of speculation. In my case, I've been collecting the Matt Baker for a long, long time, since the 1990s, when I discovered him through Canteen Kate, which is in the, Marines or something. Book. It was usually the middle story or whatever, short story. He wasn't in every one, but I liked him, and I've been picking up for a long time. So a lot of collectors like me that had that appreciation and knew about him early, is there Matt Baker stuff I don't have? Yeah, but I have almost all the key covers except for maybe two. Back then it was maybe, $125 for a VG, a good VG, a real VG copy of them, and I picked him up. And honestly, if I was halfway smart, I probably should have sold them about 2 years ago and bought them back. But they are hard to find. So romance, I don't know. I think that's, it's going to come down. I think it's going to plateau because they are hard to find. For a lot of years, they were ignored, and they were either discarded or, ended up in like a 50-cent dollar box and got trashed. So when collectors, stuff gets too pricey or too hard to find, like with a lot of the superhero stuff, especially graded books, have driven the price up on some issues. I think you're probably going to look at romance, and they're like, well, I can get, for $100, I can get 4 or 5 books here, or I can get one low-grade superhero book. So I think that money shifts, and then, it goes back and forth. So we'll have to see in the romance. I'm not quite as sold on that, being super good past the next 2, maybe 3 years for that. Other genres, I guess maybe not comics in particular. They are and they aren't. Depends on your point of view, and that's like a heavy metal. Epic magazine, which is Marvel, which is excellent magazine. A lot of great stories, a lot of great art in them. Most people don't consider them comics, even though they're comics. Different group, I don't sell many of those at comic shows either. Once in a great while, somebody may ask for a Rampaging Hulk, Savage Sword of Conan or something. But generally those are separate. I would not lump them with comics. They're just a different group of collectors, and always have been in my experience. But they do good. they're steady. Again, not high dollar, and they do have to be clean. So no rough stuff, but everything if you're VG or better, no writing, no chunks missing. They'll take a little edge wear and things like that, but really good genre. Most people don't consider it comics, but I would consider it non-superhero. Your fantasy stuff, which is kind of your D&D stuff, back to Conan. Right now, Red Sonja's pretty good. Prices went up, prices came back down, but she still seems to be selling in the Bronze Age. The newer stuff, I think there's still, a lot of them are $5 and less, $10 or less. There's a few pretty pricey variant covers out there, but overall, again, it's pretty much a niche market. I don't know why people aren't buying the D&D books from the 80s. They had a real nice series of Dragonlance and a few others. Forgotten Realms was in there. Very well done. DC put a lot of top talent on it. Put a lot of good effort in the book. I don't know. They've been in dollar boxes for 40 years. I don't know. Pretty much when they came out. I don't know why. A lot of the 80s Star Trek and Doctor Who stuff is that way. Judge Dredd. You might consider him a superhero or anti-hero, but I don't consider that necessarily a superhero book. Again, more in that sci-fi, even sci-fi horror vein. Very steady. I think it's going to be around. Just not people jumping up and down over it. So there's a lot of non-superhero stuff out there that I think people are really missing the boat on. I think there's really nice, high quality stories, high quality art. They're fairly hard to find, especially your non-DC Marvel stuff. Some of that indie stuff from the 70s and 80s. Pretty low print runs in a lot of cases on the sci-fi, horror, fantasy stuff. There's some stuff out there. I see it on the shelf. I don't buy a lot of new books. I really haven't bought new comics at the shelf since 2012. I gave up. The stories were all the same. The art was all the same and not very good. They kept rebooting things every 5 minutes. I just got tired of it. But I do go and visit some of the local comic shops now and then if there's something comes in that's of interest, which is usually sci-fi horror. So the Zenoscope stuff I do pick up fairly regularly. Some of it's really good. Some of it is, not so much. But again, it's a very, very niche market. I don't see a lot of people jumping on the new stuff. Not around here. If you're in a larger city, you might see a little bit more of it. But I don't see a lot of that right here in Central Iowa or the Upper Midwest. No matter where I go or set up, kind of seems to be the same level of demand, I guess. But good stuff. So if you're talking non-superhero, that's kind of where it's at and where it's been at. It doesn't change. I haven't seen the vast changes. Like during the speculation of the Scooby One go up, it did. I really couldn't get much more out of them. Of course, a lot of my Scoobies, I don't have a lot. The Gold Key, they were not VG. They were good, so they were a little rough. But I really didn't get any more out of them. People were interested, but I did not really have people saying, I'll pay another even $5 for that book. So there is a certain kind of price ceiling, price cap on a lot of that. I'm okay with that, to be honest with you, because that's what I see. Mostly that's what I'm able to buy. So I think that's a big difference maker too. So I just want to make sure I'm going to cover this: readers, collectors, investors, character collectors. Oh no, that was the last one. Let's see, emergence. Oh, tie-ins, long lasting. Yeah, I think I pretty much covered that. Will it die out? I don't think so. Not until we'll end on that note for this one. I don't think it'll die out as long as they're making this stuff. You got Invincible, which is animated. Of course, that's on streaming. But you also have The Boys, which they rewrote a lot of the story, which I think they did a good job. I think some of that was necessary. Sandman was a big hit. Obviously, that's only one more season for, I guess, reasons outside of fan control. We'll just leave it at that. So yeah, I don't see it going anywhere, but I do see it being not as mass market. Even Walking Dead, when that was super duper hot, and that was a super duper hot comic. That's really settled down. There's still the diehard fans and readers and things, but I don't see that Superman, Spider-Man, Batman, Wonder Woman worldwide level of interest. I guess it's always going to be a niche market, but I think it's going to be a good one. I think something else non-superhero. I just thought of this. I would throw your manga, a lot of your manga books in there, and that's something I think is really, really growing and has been for a long time in the U.S. And I'm not gonna expound on it too much because I want to do a separate podcast on that. There's a couple topics in here that would be a better place for that. But that is another non-superhero area. Back issue wise, there's a few books in the U.S. Your original Ghost in the Shell miniseries, that original Shonen Jump, with Yu-Gi-Oh! If you can still get that sealed with the card in it. Gantz, there's some of the Shonen Jumps with Gantz and Bleach, and One Piece, Naruto. Again, it's mainly readers, so this is all stuff that's the difference. The superhero stuff is a lot of speculation, a lot of gee whiz bang, a lot of which movie's coming out. That's the new hot characters right now. Everybody's buying up anything with Doctor Doom on it, which boy, if you're not familiar with it, there's a lot of material out there, but they're buying all of it because he's supposed to be showing up in the movie. So I don't see that with the other genres, and I think that's a much healthier way. It's certainly much more enjoyable and fun way, because I still read a lot of that myself. I'm not so worried about collecting things at this point on them, but I still like to read them, so that's a good genre in there. So that's where I'm at right now on this one. So I've still got a lot of topics to go. If anybody else has any other topics you want me to talk about or mention, please let me know. Corey can't be the only one here. No offense, Corey. I'm sure I'll owe you a couple of meals at the shed and a couple of beers over all this. That's fine. But if anybody has any other topics, please feel free to send them to me, and I'll do my best to expound upon them. And then you can make fun of me all you want at that point. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching, guys.